Chapter 2. Minty Mischief. The morning sun filtered through the garden's trees, casting playful shadows on the mint patch. Zenzi's nose twitched as she caught the cool, invigorating scent of the mint leaves. She had slept well after her first mindful day in the herb garden, and now she was ready for another adventure. "What's the plan for today?" Zenzi asked, bounding up to Mama Kitty, who was lounging under the shade of a rosemary bush. Mama Kitty stretched gracefully, her golden eyes twinkling with amusement. "The garden always has something new to teach us, but first, let's see if Willow has any ideas." Zenzi perked up at the thought of Willow. She adored the calm and thoughtful white cat, who always seemed to know just the right thing to say. She darted toward the mint patch where she had last seen Willow meditating. As she neared the mint, Zenzi's paws skidded to a halt. A tiny rustling sound caught her attention. She crouched low, her tail swishing, ready to pounce. "I hear something," she whispered to herself. "Careful, little one," came Willow's soothing voice from the other side of the mint patch. Zenzi looked up to see her friend reclining on a flat stone, her light blue eyes watching with quiet amusement. Zenzi's ears drooped. "I thought it might be something exciting." Willow smiled. "Sometimes excitement comes in small packages. Look closely." Zenzi tilted her head and peered into the mint leaves. At first, she saw nothing but the green, glistening foliage. But then, as she focused, she noticed a tiny green caterpillar munching on one of the leaves. Its movements were slow and deliberate, each bite leaving a perfectly rounded edge. "A caterpillar!" Zenzi exclaimed. "I almost missed it." "That's because you were rushing," Willow said, stepping closer. "In the garden, slowing down helps you notice the little things. Even something as small as a caterpillar has a role to play." Zenzi watched the caterpillar with growing fascination. Its soft, fuzzy body moved like a gentle wave, and the sound of its chewing was surprisingly loud when she listened closely. "It's so tiny, but it's working so hard," she said softly. Mama Kitty joined them, her steps light and quiet. "The caterpillar reminds us to focus on what we're doing, no matter how small it seems. That's part of mindfulness too, paying attention to the task in front of you." Zenzi nodded, her curiosity bubbling over. "Can I try being like the caterpillar?" Mama Kitty smiled. "Of course. The mint patch is a good place to start. Pick one leaf and notice everything about it. Its color, its shape, its scent. Pretend it's the most interesting thing in the world." Zenzi chose a mint leaf near her paw. It was a rich, vibrant green, with tiny veins crisscrossing its surface. She leaned in to sniff it, her nose twitching as the cool, refreshing aroma filled her senses. "It smells like morning," she said, giggling. "What else do you notice?" Willow prompted. Zenzi ran her paw gently over the leaf. "It feels soft, but a little bumpy too. And it's kind of shiny when the light hits it just right." "Good," Mama Kitty purred. "Now take a small nibble and see what you discover." Zenzi hesitated, then nibbled the edge of the mint leaf. The sharp, cool flavor spread across her tongue, making her shiver. "It tastes so fresh, like it's waking me up from the inside." Willow laughed softly. "Mint has a way of doing that. It's like a little reminder to stay awake and aware." Zenzi sat back, her tail swishing happily. "I never knew one little leaf could be so interesting." "That's the beauty of mindfulness," Mama Kitty said. "When you pay attention, even small things can seem magical." Zenzi's whiskers twitched with excitement. She looked around the garden, her eyes scanning the other patches. "If mint is this fun, what about the other plants? Can we try those too?" Mama Kitty shook her head gently. "One plant at a time, little one. The garden has plenty of lessons, but mindfulness means savoring them one by one." Zenzi sighed. but her smile returned quickly. Okay, I'll be patient. But what about the caterpillar? What can it teach me? Willow leaned down to meet Zenzi's gaze. The caterpillar shows us how small steps can lead to big changes. It doesn't rush, but every little bite it takes brings it closer to becoming something amazing. Something amazing? Zenzi repeated, her green eyes wide. Mama Kitty nodded. One day, that caterpillar will become a butterfly. But for now, it focuses on the task at hand, one leaf at a time. Zenzi thought about this for a moment. She looked back at the caterpillar, now inching its way to the next leaf. I want to be like the caterpillar, she said finally. I'll take small steps and enjoy each one. Mama Kitty purred approvingly. That's a wonderful way to think, Zenzi. As the three cats sat together in the mint patch, the garden seemed to hum with life. Zenzi felt a quiet happiness in her chest. She didn't need to rush or chase anything. There was magic all around her. She just had to notice it. The mint patch seemed to glow under the morning sun, its scent growing richer as the breeze gently stirred the leaves. Zenzi sat quietly, watching the caterpillar continue its slow, deliberate march across the mint. Her tiny paws were tucked neatly under her, and for once, she wasn't fidgeting. She was too busy thinking. So the caterpillar doesn't rush, and one day it turns into a butterfly, Zenzi mused aloud. But what if it gets tired or bored along the way? Mama Kitty, who was reclining nearby, chuckled softly. That's why mindfulness is so important, Zenzi. The caterpillar doesn't think about how far it has to go. It just focuses on the leaf in front of it. Willow nodded in agreement. When you stay present, even boring tasks can feel special. It's not about how fast you go. It's about how much you notice while you're going. Zenzi's whiskers twitched as she thought about this. So, if I wanted to practice like the caterpillar, what would I do? Mama Kitty sat up, her golden eyes sparkling. You could try a mindful task. Something small, but something you can give your full attention to. Zenzi tilted her head. Like what? Willow stood gracefully and gestured with her paw. How about gathering some mint leaves? Nikki loves using them for tea, and it's the perfect task for practicing mindfulness. Zenzi's green eyes lit up. I can do that. Where do I start? Mama Kitty rose to her paws and padded over to the edge of the patch. Here's a good spot. Pick just a few leaves, enough to fill Nikki's small basket. But remember, Zenzi, don't rush. Take your time and notice everything about what you're doing. Zenzi crouched beside the patch, her nose twitching as she inhaled the mint's fresh aroma. She reached out a paw and gently brushed it over the leaves, feeling their soft texture. Carefully, she selected a single leaf and nipped it off with her teeth. She held it up, inspecting its bright green color and the tiny veins running through it. This one's perfect, she said proudly, placing it in the basket Willow had brought. Why is it perfect? Willow asked, her voice encouraging. Zenzi thought for a moment. Because it's whole and shiny, and it smells really strong. It feels like it's the best leaf for Nikki's tea. Willow smiled. That's mindfulness, Zenzi. Paying attention to the little things that make something special. Zenzi continued gathering leaves, moving slowly and carefully. She noticed how some leaves were darker than others, how the mint grew in clusters, and how its stems felt smooth but firm. With each leaf she picked, she felt a sense of calm settling over her, as if the garden itself was rewarding her for her patience. Halfway through the task, a sudden flutter of wings startled Zenzi. She looked up to see a small bird hopping among the mint plants, its feathers a mix of gray and white. The bird tilted its head, watching her with curious black eyes. Hello there, Zenzi said softly, her tail swishing in greeting. The bird chirped once, then darted to another patch of mint. Zenzi giggled. Even the birds like mint. They do, Mama Kitty said, her purr warm and steady. The garden is a home for everyone, birds, bees, caterpillars, and cats. Each of us has something to learn from it. Zenzi nodded, turning back to her task. She picked a few more leaves, savoring the cool scent that clung to her paws. When the basket was full, she sat back with a satisfied sigh. I did it. I filled the basket, and I didn't rush once. Willow stepped forward and inspected the basket. Beautiful work, Zenzi. Each leaf is perfect for Nikki's tea. Zenzi's tail curled with pride. It wasn't hard once I stopped trying to hurry. I kind of like going slow. That's the magic of mindfulness, Mama Kitty said, her golden eyes twinkling. It turns even the simplest tasks into something special. Zenzi sat quietly for a moment, looking at the mint patch. The leaves shimmered in the sunlight, their fresh scent still filling the air. She felt a deep sense of peace, like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. What do we do next? She asked, her voice soft and curious. Willow smiled. Next, we take the basket to Nikki. But first, let's sit and enjoy this moment a little longer. The garden always rewards those who take time to notice. Zenzi nodded, lying down on the cool grass. As the three cats rested together, the sounds of the garden seemed to surround them. The rustling of leaves, the hum of bees, and the faint chirp of the little bird. Zenzi closed her eyes and let the moment wash over her, her heart full of quiet joy. With the basket of mint leaves balanced carefully between her teeth, Zenzi padded toward the entrance of Nikki's herb garden. The sun was now high in the sky, casting a warm glow over the path. The mint's cool, sharp scent filled the air, making Zenzi feel awake and alive. This basket smells so good, Zenzi mumbled around the handle, her voice muffled. I bet Nikki will love it. Mama Kitty, walking calmly beside her, purred in agreement. Fresh mint is always a gift, and you've chosen these leaves so mindfully. Nikki will appreciate your hard work. Willow followed close behind, her steps soft and deliberate. And you've learned a lot from the garden today, haven't you, Zenzi? Zenzi stopped to set the basket down, her green eyes thoughtful. I think so. I learned how to slow down and notice things, like how mint leaves smell and feel. And I learned that even tiny things, like caterpillars, can teach big lessons. Mama Kitty nodded approvingly. The garden is full of teachers, if we're willing to listen. As they approached Nikki's back porch, Zenzi spotted her human friend tending to a pot of flowers. Nikki was humming softly to herself, her hands covered in dirt. Her long braids swung gently as she worked, and Zenzi's heart swelled with affection for the kind woman who cared so much for the garden and its inhabitants. Nikki! We brought you something, Zenzi called, her tail swishing with excitement. Nikki turned, her face lighting up when she saw the three cats. Well, hello, my sweet meowers. What do you have there? Zenzi nudged the basket closer with her nose. Mint leaves. I picked them just for you. Nikki knelt down, her eyes sparkling as she inspected the basket. These are perfect, Zenzi. Thank you so much. Fresh mint makes the best tea. Zenzi purred, feeling a warm glow of pride. I picked them mindfully, just like Mama Kitty and Willow taught me. Nikki smiled and scratched Zenzi gently behind the ears. You're becoming quite the mindful little cat, aren't you? Zenzi beamed. I'm trying. The garden helps me learn. Nikki stood and carried the basket inside, leaving the three cats to rest on the sunlit porch. Zenzi stretched out, her fur warm against the wooden planks. She felt a deep sense of accomplishment, not just because she'd picked the mint, but because she'd done it with care and attention. You've done well today, Zenzi, Mama Kitty said, settling beside her. Do you feel different now than when you started? Zenzi thought for a moment. I think I feel calmer and happier too. like I don't need to rush to feel good. I can just enjoy things as they are. Willow purred softly. That's the heart of mindfulness, little one. It's not about doing everything perfectly. It's about noticing the beauty in each moment. Zenzi closed her eyes and let the sounds of the garden wash over her, the chirping birds, the gentle rustle of the mint patch, and the faint clinking of cups from Nikki's kitchen. She felt a quiet peace settle over her, like the garden itself was wrapping her in its warmth. Just as she was drifting into a light nap, a mischievous thought popped into her mind. She opened one eye and glanced at Willow and Mama Kitty. "Do you think Nikki would mind if I tried her mint tea?" Mama Kitty chuckled. "I think Nikki would be happy to share. But remember, patience, Zenzi. The best things are worth waiting for." Zenzi sighed, her tail curling around her paws. "Okay, I'll wait. But I hope she brings it soon. It smells too good to miss." The three cats lounged together on the porch, the mint patch swaying gently in the breeze behind them. Zenzi felt a contentment she'd never known before, as if the garden's lessons had settled into her very bones. She was learning to be present, to savor each moment, and to trust that the best things would come in their own time. Zenzi stretched luxuriously on the porch, her paws reaching forward as her back arched in a satisfying curve. The faint aroma of mint tea wafted through the air, carried by the breeze from Nikki's kitchen. It made her whiskers twitch with anticipation. "Do you think she's almost done?" Zenzi asked, her green eyes peeking toward the door. "Patience, Zenzi," Mama Kitty said with a soft chuckle, her golden eyes half closed. "Mindfulness isn't just about slowing down. It's also about trusting that things will happen when they're meant to." Willow, perched gracefully on the edge of the porch, added, "And while you wait, there's always something to notice. What do you see, hear, or feel right now?" Zenzi tilted her head, letting her senses take over. She heard the distant chirping of sparrows, the soft rustle of mint leaves in the breeze, and the rhythmic hum of a bee somewhere in the garden. She felt the warmth of the sun on her fur and the coolness of the wooden porch beneath her paws. And she saw the garden stretching out before her, alive with color and movement. "It's busy," Zenzi said finally, "but not in a rushing way. It's like everything is moving together." Mama Kitty nodded. "That's the balance of nature. Everything has its own pace, its own rhythm. And when you're mindful, you can be part of that harmony." Zenzi smiled, her tail curling in contentment. She was about to say more when the kitchen door swung open and Nikki appeared, carrying a tray. On it was a teapot, 3 tiny saucers, and cups decorated with delicate green leaves. Zenzi's eyes widened with delight. "Is that for us?" she asked, sitting up straight. Nikki laughed softly. "Of course, fresh mint tea for my favorite meowers." She placed the tray on the porch and knelt down, pouring the tea into the cups with care. The steam rose in soft tendrils, carrying the refreshing scent of mint. Zenzi patted forward and sniffed at her cup. The warmth tickled her nose, and the scent made her feel calm and awake at the same time. "It smells even better than the mint leaves. Try a small sip," Nikki encouraged, her voice kind. Zenzi dipped her tiny pink tongue into the cup, letting the tea rest on her tongue for a moment before swallowing. The flavor was cool yet warm, bright yet soothing. It was unlike anything she'd ever tasted. "It's amazing," she said, her eyes wide. Mama Kitty and Willow each took their own sips, their contented purrs filling the air. "Tea is a wonderful way to practice mindfulness," Willow said, her blue eyes glowing with approval. "It teaches us to savor each moment, each sip." Zenzi took another small sip, closing her eyes to focus on the taste. She noticed the way the warmth spread through her body, how the minty flavor lingered on her tongue, and how the simple act of drinking tea made her feel connected to the garden. "I never thought tea could be so special," she said softly. "It's like the garden in a cup." Nikki smiled and stroked Zenzi's fur. "That's the magic of mindfulness, my sweet Zenzi. When you pay attention, even simple things, like a cup of tea, can feel extraordinary." As they sipped their tea, the sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting a golden light over the garden. Zenzi felt a deep sense of peace, like everything in the world was exactly as it should be. "Thank you for teaching me today," Zenzi said, looking at Mama Kitty and Willow. "I think I'm starting to understand mindfulness. It's not just about being still, it's about enjoying what's right in front of you." Mama Kitty purred warmly. "You've learned well, little one. And the best part is, there's always more to discover." Zenzi smiled, her heart full of gratitude. She didn't need to rush or chase anything. The garden and life was full of treasures, and she was ready to notice them all, one moment at a time. The golden hues of the setting sun painted the herb garden in a warm glow, making the mint leaves sparkle as if kissed by tiny flecks of light. Zenzi sat quietly on the porch, her teacup nestled safely between her paws. She had never felt so calm, yet so alive. The mint tea had worked its magic, and the garden seemed even more beautiful than before. "What a day!" Zenzi said, her voice soft with awe. "I didn't know the garden could feel so big and so small at the same time." Mama Kitty stretched beside her, her dark fur glistening in the sunlight. "That's the beauty of mindfulness, little one. It helps you see the big picture while cherishing the little details." Willow nodded, her serene blue eyes watching Zenzi with approval. "And you've done both today, Zenzi. From noticing the caterpillar to picking the perfect mint leaves, you've practiced mindfulness in so many ways." Zenzi purred softly, her tail curling around her body. "I didn't think it would be so fun to go slow. But now I feel like I saw everything I would have missed if I had been rushing." The three cats sat in comfortable silence for a moment, listening to the sounds of the garden. The bees were quieter now, their hums fading as they returned to their hive. The breeze rustled the leaves with a gentle sigh, and a pair of sparrows hopped playfully near the chamomile patch. "What will we do tomorrow?" Zenzi asked, her green eyes sparkling with curiosity. Mama Kitty smiled, her expression calm yet playful. "The garden always has more to teach us. But remember, Zenzi, mindfulness isn't just about the garden, it's a way of living. Wherever you go, you can bring these lessons with you." Zenzi tilted her head. "Like how I can enjoy my tea even if I'm not in the garden?" Willow purred. "Exactly. Whether you're here, inside Mindful Manor, or anywhere else, you can always slow down, notice, and enjoy the moment." Zenzi thought about this as she finished the last sip of her tea. The warmth lingered in her chest, a comforting reminder of everything she'd learned that day. She looked out at the garden, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I think the garden is my favorite place," she said finally. "It's like a treasure chest that never runs out of surprises." Mama Kitty stood and nudged Zenzi gently with her nose. "And you've only just begun to explore it. Each day will bring something new to notice, to learn, and to enjoy." As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the garden, Nikki appeared at the door. She smiled at the three cats, her eyes filled with affection. "Thank you for the mint, my sweet meowers. It made the perfect tea." Zenzi's tail swished happily. "We're glad you liked it, Nikki." Nikki knelt down and gave Zenzi a gentle scratch behind her ears. "You've had a big day, little one. Why don't you rest now and let tomorrow bring its own adventures?" Zenzi yawned, suddenly feeling the weight of the day settle over her. She padded over to the edge of the porch and curled up on the warm wood, her eyes drooping. As sleep began to take her, she thought of the caterpillar, the mint leaves, and the tea. She thought of the garden, alive with treasures she was only beginning to uncover. Most of all, she thought of how wonderful it felt to simply be in the moment. With a final purr, Zenzi drifted off, the sounds of the garden lulling her into a peaceful sleep. Mama Kitty and Willow stayed close, their quiet presence a comforting reminder that Zenzi was never alone in her journey. Tomorrow would bring new lessons, new adventures, and new moments to savor. But for now, the garden rested, and so did she.